It wasn't pretty, but it wasn't ugly. Illinois loses 100-87. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another post-game edition of Locked On Illini. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at IlliniCast. You can find me at the Sunny V. You can find me live after every basketball game, whether it's basketball, men's or women's, or even football. All of it right here. The chat's already popping. I know you guys are very excited. Depending on where your viewpoint is, it was either a close game or it wasn't a very close game. But, usually for these post-game reports, I try to bring on a guy who knows a lot more than me. And so for today's basketball game, I'm bringing on someone who I think is a part of the best basketball Illini podcast out there. And that's the Java Men. So Shaps, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks, Sonny. Thanks for the kind words there.
All right. So 187, the chat's popping already. And I promise you, please leave your comments. We're going to get to that in the third segment. There's a lot to talk about. I do want to preface this because you may not have seen the pregame show that I did for this particular game. I predicted a 95-78 victory for Alabama. And for me personally, and I'm prefacing this for all of you who may not have watched the pregame, I wanted to see one of two things. If we got blown out, I wanted to see KJ at least have a good game. If we kept it close, that was the only acceptable reason for KJ to not have a good game. So in my opinion, 13, when you factor in free throws and fouls called, I think the game was closer than the final score kind of dictated. Again, Chaps might be on the opposite side of this. We're going to find out momentarily. I can't say I'm too upset. But, Chef, before we get started, I do need to mention that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Chefs, again, I think I'm being clear where I stand on this. I come out of this. You don't like losing by 13 points. You don't like giving up 100 points to Alabama. But overall, I'm not too down in my postgame. Where do you stand?
I think if this was last year, I'd be way more down. Given the roster makeup coming into this season, this was the expectation that they might struggle a little bit. You look at Alabama, and they've got a bunch of fifth-year grad players, on their team. And so you kind of expected it coming in. The way that the Alabama played against Purdue made me even more nervous as well, too, because you just knew that the shooting luck was going to come around the other way. And sure enough, they couldn't miss, especially in the first half. So I'd say normally, I'd be guns blazing coming for Underwood's head after a performance like this right out of the gate, but it's going to be a long season. Clearly the talent is there, and it's going to take some time, but this team is going to be very good.
Very good. For me, my biggest question today was I wanted to see what Kasparis was capable of. We've seen him, provide like an all-around basketball game whether it comes to assists or rebounds, and he's honestly been pretty decent defensively as well. But what I didn't know if he had was the alpha mentality to be able to take 10, 12 shots and go put the aggression on the opposition at this point. But today we saw that. We saw, I think, 12 points in the first half. I think ultimately, especially with the way the game ended, and we saw how Will Riley finished the game, between Kasparis, Will Riley, and Tomislav Ivicic, between those three, I don't know how many Big Ten teams can counteract that sort of big three. And so that's why, again, right now, let me pull up the box score. When it comes to free throws, we finished 13 of 24. Now, with about 4 minutes left, this was a 9-point game, and we were 12 of 22. And I made a comment on Twitter that if we were making our free throws, you're talking about a 5-point game with 4 minutes left. The entire mindset of the game changes. As you mentioned, Alabama right now is coming off of a loss against Purdue. This is not a home game, but it was close enough to being a home game. You're talking about less than an hour away from campus. If you watch the game, you can hear it was a pro-Alabama crowd. I knew this would be tough for Illinois. You're talking about an Illinois team who's really just played 5 games together. If you include the exhibition, they're playing against each other in practice, but collectively, this group just doesn't have the minutes on the court to play against real opposition. We had it against Ole Miss. The previous 3 games, let's be honest, didn't really count. Alabama, was the rated number 2 last week. Right now, they're still rated top 8. And the fact that we kept it, again, in my opinion, reasonably close when you factor in that hot start that Alabama got off at the beginning of the game, I'm not too down right now.
Yeah, I actually agree.
By the way, I'm actually surprised because I brought Shaps on knowing he's more than a guy when it comes to me. I listen to their podcast all the time. And I don't know how to phrase it properly, but yeah, you guys are usually a little bit more aggressive in going after Brad, but it seems like you're kind of okay with what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you listen to our show, I'm in the front lines usually of the firing squad when something goes bad for us. And so this is rare form for me. I guess I could have come on and put on the whole, dog and pony show and came after Brad a little bit. But yeah, I got to be honest. The fire is not burning inside of me tonight after that game. Alabama came out and punched us in the mouth just immediately. I guess we didn't read the scouting report that Nelson can shoot threes. Avicic apparently didn't know that at all. I think I tweeted during the game that he must have gone to the Dane Danger school of drop coverage.
Yeah,
because he gets into that spot of I'm not going to contest the shot, but also I'm not going to protect the rim. It's just complete no man's land. So we'll work on that. But overall, the takeaways from the game is that they obviously just got off to a bad start, but they really did battle back. 8-point game, couldn't just get over that hump. When it got to 10 minutes, we went on a run when there was about 12 minutes left. But again, it was just too big of a hole because you just know that Alabama is going to answer at some point, right? They're not just going to stay down for 15 minutes straight. So they're going to go on a run. We still answered back. The goaltend by Merez kind of killed it a little bit, had a ton of momentum. That I think that would have cut it to either a 6 or 7 point game, if that counted. So again, it was a very surprising game how it went, though, I thought, because I thought Mark Sears was going to be the biggest problem for us, and
you and I both, yeah,
didn't even make a basket the entire game. Their leading scorer doesn't make a point, and they drop 100 points on us. It just shows how much talent that Alabama has once they get going. They're really, really good and really deep. And Illinois will be there as well, too. We just don't have the experience yet.
I'll go over the quick box score, and then Shaps and I will talk about the players individually after a break real quick. We shot 32 for 70 from field goal percentage, 46%, 35% from 3-point land, 10 for 29. So, we shot the amount of shots that we're kind of expecting every game, but maybe not at the percentage we wanted. But again, I think the story of the game was the free throws, 13 of 24. I think we missed those particular free throws. We missed a couple and one opportunities. Will Riley had 3 free throws. That's his shot now, basically getting fouled, shooting a 3-pointer, and he couldn't, connect on all 3. There's plenty of moments in that game where, just a point here and there, all of a sudden could have made that game all the more interesting. And Shaps and I, we're going to talk a little bit more about the specific players right after this. Do you struggle to find a perfect gift during the holidays? Maybe gift giving isn't your love language. You overthink it and wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. Are you buying for someone who has everything or just seems unpleasable? Are you tired of wasting money on useless clutter that no one really needs? We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. Add new photos straight from your phone from anywhere. It only takes a tap on your phone to send new photos to a frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. They'll feel so much more connected to you. Better than social media, it's a great private way to share photos without posting it to the world or having to print and store hard copies. Satisfaction guaranteed. We're confident that you'll love Skylight. We offer free 120-day returns. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/college. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/college. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/college. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so I want to start when we talk about individual players. Again, my main focus in the pregame was on Kasparis. Kasparis, I think, has had 2 of 3 really, really good games, but obviously, I think he's had 10 shots all season long coming into today. I wanted to see a more aggressive Kasparis because, in my opinion, if Kasparis is not a guy who can shoot 12 to 15 shots in a game, then maybe I needed to readjust my opinion that Illinois could finish in the top 2 in the Big Ten Conference. But today, I saw him. Essentially, he finished, his box score was 15 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, 6 of 13 from field goal range, 1 of 4 from 3 points, 2 of 3 from the free throws. He did have 6 turnovers, which apparently dominated my entire Twitter feed. That's all anyone kind of wanted to bring up. But before I elaborate on any of that, chaps, what were your thoughts on Kasparis today?
It was great seeing him offensively being a little more aggressive, looking to score a bit more than what we've seen in the past games from him. I think that's obviously what everyone wanted to see was, once he gets into the lane, don't always look to pass it. He can be so dangerous with that little floater when he gets that going, because a lot of times, and this is where the turnovers come in most of the time, is when he's trying to force that pass, to a Visic and there's, just too many defenders and he's too close to him. So it's like, there's just no space to make those little passes. He makes some incredible passes as we see, but sometimes the risk is just too high, when he's passing up an open shot or, just kick it out and try again. So he's just taking a little bit too much risk. And the turnovers are a problem. He was just too loose with the ball tonight in his dribbling. You just got to get a little bit stronger with it because you're going to get a lot of teams that are going to be pressuring him. So I think he'll continue to improve, but overall, yes, the turnovers suck, but it's good to see him get going offensively from a scoring standpoint. He's still distributing the ball with the assists, of course. He's still just a playmaker, but it's what we wanted to see from him.
You just want to see that he's got that killer instinct, right? Like, I feel like I watched him all summer long. As soon as we were rumored to recruit him and he was coming to Champaign, I had like 2.5 months of just watching him play for Barcelona's, second squad and just playing for the FIBA under 18s. And for me, it's just like, I was super excited for this guy. And that's kind of where I feel like there was a lot of hype that was built around Kasparis coming to Illinois. And I feel like he's lived up to 80% of it. Right? Like the scoring hasn't necessarily been there. Now, granted, Tomislav has picked up on that scoring coming into this year. I didn't think he would be this good, and probably inarguably, in my opinion, our best player this year. But I didn't think he'd be a 15 to 18 point scorer. But same way, I didn't expect Kasparis to be a 10-point scorer. I thought he would be the 15 to 18 point scorer, arguably the top scorer on this team. Today, at least I saw him take 13 shots. 13 shots is more than he's taken in the previous 3 games combined. And that's what's got me a little bit more optimistic. For me, in my bold predictions episode for Locked On Illini, I predicted Illinois would go 0-4 in all the marquee out-of-conference games for very lazy reasons. In particular, like this team just hasn't played much together. And they're a young squad. And I felt like when you put them in tough environments, playing tough basketball teams early in the year, they might be outmatched. And again, this is why, I predicted them to lose today. But at the same time, I think we're going to be a top 2 team in the Big Ten once that season rolls around, because I saw enough of Kasparis today. I've already seen enough of Visic. Will Riley just seems to be an X factor here. Right? Like he goes on stretches for 5 minutes where in 5 minutes he can score 17 points. But for the other 20 minutes, he's playing like what a freshman kind of plays like. And if you take a look at his line today, he was 6 for 12. I don't have the minutes because ESPN basically, they don't display the minutes immediately after the game. But, 18 points, 9 rebounds. It doesn't look like it was a bad game. And he didn't have a bad game. But let's be honest, he kind of showed up with maybe 8 minutes left in the game. Before that, he was almost irrelevant.
29 minutes for Riley, CBS app. It's got it on there for you. But yeah, he's just different. You can tell. Like the way he operates with the ball, the shots, the difficulty of the shots that he makes. He's different than everybody else on the court. What we need to see from him is not even so much from Will Riley. I think it's the players around him need to learn how to play with him more. Because when he gets the ball on offense, a lot of times that's when we start standing still everywhere. And it's almost like they start just waiting for him to do something. Flashback to sort of last year, like when Terrence Shannon would get the ball. So I want to see this team moving a lot better without him. They're gonna figure out how to play with him better, I think, and his minutes, I'm sure, will continue to go up as Brad trusts him more and more. But it's because a lot of times he gets stuck, having to dribble and force something one-on-one, and he's not getting the help of his teammates as often as, when Kasparis is doing it. So I think that'll evolve as the season goes along, but he's incredible to watch.
He's a guy who I think can win 3-4 games this season just by himself. He's going to eventually just catch on fire. And again, in my opinion, once Big Ten season rolls around and he kind of slows down a bit, I feel like right now he makes shots way more complicated than he necessarily needs to, just because for him in high school, probably his entire life, they just came so easy. And so the fact that they're a little bit more difficult right now, he's just trying to do a little bit too much, and he just needs to slow it down a little bit. But I agree with you. For me, I feel like there's a stark difference when Kasparis and Will Riley are on the court together, because Kasparis, again, he's kind of the engine. He tries to make the offense work. But when Will Riley is the focal point of the offense, then all of a sudden everyone else is just kind of waiting around to see what Will does. And you're just kind of adjusting to him. The other guy I wanted to address before we get to the next segment is the guy who I feel like has been the biggest lightning rod of Illini conversation right now. And that's Kylan Boswell, who today finished with 17 points, 7 of 14 field goals, 1 for 4 from 3-point land. 7 rebounds and 3 assists. Honestly, and it's not even close, easily his best box score game of the season. What did you think of Kylan?
Thought overall his best game by far, not just offensively, but I was way more impressed with him on the defensive end, completely shutting down Mark Sears, which was his assignment.
0 points.
0 points for Mark Sears. He was struggling so badly that Oates basically benched him in the second half because they were playing better without him. But Boswell was the main reason behind that. Did not let Sears to get off to any kind of start at all. He was taking very, very high difficult shots, was nowhere close on any of them. So that's what I was really impressed with Kylan, because that's going to be his main role. And if he can be consistently shutting down, or at least making life difficult for opposing guards, then this team is going to have a lot more success. And then offensively, especially in the second half, he really got going. He came out of the second half right at the start, really, really aggressive, looking for his shot, driving into guys, catch and shoot threes, creating for others as well, bringing the energy that I think people expected him to see. He got off, obviously, to a slow start in the first couple of games. I think he was still trying to find his place, especially when KJ's doing most of the ball handling. He's kind of like, well, where do I fit in here? He seems to probably be better when KJ is not on the floor, because he gets to be the primary ball handler. I still think they can play well together, but I think this was a huge step for Kylan's confidence.
Yeah. Kylan struggled the first 3 games, at least on the offensive side, right? For the Oakland game, I focused strictly on Kylan just because of a lot of the talk has been about him, but I was very satisfied with what he does on the court. He's someone who seems to embrace that there's enough offensive weapons on this basketball team. And he kind of understood that, hey, I'm the junior on this team. Granted, he's still just 19 years old, but he accepted the role like, hey, I'm going to be one of the 2 or 3 guys that's going to be the guy to lock down and basically initiate the defense. And so I was positive on Kylan's performance against Oakland. And today, it's nice to finally, I'm hoping now at least the DGL conversation's over, that the DGL should be starting over Kylan, because I thought that was ridiculous at first. Again, I'm a Dre Gibbs Longhorn fan, but guys, he went 0 for 5 today. He had 2 points. 1 steal, really just not very much a noteworthy performance. It's a DGL, the type of games he's had in his 2 years here at Illinois. He's a microwave off the bench when he's on. He in his best, he's probably a Justin Harmon from last year, but I think Kylan is the right guy next to Kasparis. I agree with you that maybe they need to offset minutes a little bit so that Kylan can kind of play that one role, which I think he wants to play, which is why I think he came to Illinois originally, thinking he'd be the main guy and playing point guard. Obviously, once you bring in a talent like Kasparis, things change a little bit. But at least that conversation has to die down a little bit. Again, overall, this is what you want. Alabama's a very good basketball team, arguably a top 5 team. They're dropped to I think number 8 coming in today because of that loss to Purdue. But regardless, in the preseason and last week, they were top 5 basketball team. You're playing essentially an away game. And I know we're going to get to the comments in the section, in the second segment. Technically, didn't cover the spread, but I'm not too down on this game overall. But let's get to the comments right after this. By the way, if you're watching this, and there's 63 of you watching this, please hit that like subscribe button. If you don't mind, my goal is to hit 2,000 before the calendar year's over. I believe you're at like 1532 or something along those lines right before the show started. Again, I'm here every single day producing 30 minutes of content for you guys, and that includes the weekend. So please, it's easy to do because of the support that this community continues to show. But again, if you don't mind, if you're here for the first time, please do it. Send it to whatever Illini group chat you might have. And again, it costs you guys nothing. Just hit that like button, subscribe button, nothing else. All right, let's go. right. I'm gonna start with Czar because Czar is what I thought Shaps was going to be coming into the show here. A friend of the show, and he says lots of cope here. This is a very bad team. I don't think it's a bad team. At least not from what I saw today. I think a bad team would be a team this young, getting off to that slow of a start against a team that went off to a hot start. This should have been a 25-point loss.
Yeah.
If not more than that, against a coach like Nate Oates, who in my opinion is a top 5, top 6 coach. I actually like the way we battled back, and we may never have essentially been in the game, but it's only because we didn't hit our free throws. And, we had some costly turnovers, which again, I'm not saying there's a reason I'm saying the game wasn't that close, but I don't feel bad about it because I think if this game was played in January, it's a 50-50 game. And it's a game that we very well could have come out with. Kevin says, don't know about the rest of you, but I've never been a fan of drop coverage. It gives the offense an advantage. Yeah, but there's a lot of college basketball. I think that's just kind of the way a lot of college basketball teams are going right now. Whether we have the personnel for it. For me, Chefs, let me ask you a question. So we're now 4 games in. I love Ivisic. And I appreciate what Hummerkaus brings to this basketball team. But I'm now starting to question whether those two need to be in the lineup together. Because when that happens, the opposing 2 bigs, it's a simple matter of which one of us is going to score this time.
I think Morez's minutes will go up throughout the year if he learns to play without fouling, basically. He is a difference maker. He is clearly the best rim protector as well. The drop coverage, we talk a lot about the drop coverage on my show, and the best teams usually play drop coverage. It's just if you're not playing it well, it looks really ugly. The idea is, allowing difficult 2s. That's what you want teams to do is you don't want them getting layups. You want, on the ball defenders going hard against the screen to contest 3s, the drop coverage, allowing, long 2s is basically the idea behind it. And when you have someone who's like Dane Danger, we saw over and over again, just dropping, then it can get really ugly because eventually you either get layups, you get the lob that we saw tonight when Ivisic was just caught in no man's land. You have to either get up. You can't just drop and drop forever, basically, is the idea behind it. So when it's run correctly, very effective. I think Morez will be very, very good at it.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois is a team that's it's run by analytics at this point. That coaching staff loves being kind of ahead of the curve. And right now, drop coverage, you just want the opposition to take bad shots. And our problem is that we just don't necessarily have the athleticism to make the opposing team make as bad shots as some of the better defensive teams are going to make. Czar, once again, responds, they did get blown out, didn't cover the spread, and it was never close. This team has no chance of being even adequate defensively. Again, Czar. Okay, hold on. I'm thinking, and this might be a little off the cuff. I think this team has the potential, at the very least, to be as good, if not better, of a defensive team as last year. Yay or nay?
There's definitely the potential because we're more athletic. We have a ton of length. I think we'll be more consistent. And, your best player, Terrence Shannon, isn't having to also be your best defender as well. So I don't know. I don't know if they were really bad last year. They just have to be. Yeah, we had a top 5 offense last year. Right. So this isn't like something new, really. We knew that. I mean, Brad told us, he was very upfront about how terrible we are defensively. So you can't act surprised by it. We're going to have to outscore a lot of teams. We just have to have an average, like slightly below average even on the defensive end to probably win the Big Ten. So again, teams aren't going to be shooting like this against us every single game. I mean, they came out just red hot. It'll even out. Teams are going to miss shots. We're going to get better on the defensive end, but probably won't get significantly better on the defensive end. It's always going to be the offense that carries us. So if we're not shooting the ball well, then things could absolutely get ugly. But there's so much talent on this team, and there's not that much talent in the Big Ten where teams aren't going to blow us out. We're always going to be there, even on a crappy shooting night.
Yeah, I think this is the team where even if they finish anywhere like around we got 18 teams in the Big Ten now. If we can finish in the 10 range with the way our offensive firepower is, where, like, as you just mentioned, there's not many teams in the Big Ten Conference that are going to be able to keep up with this team offensively once Big Ten season actually rolls around. Right now, again, we're still struggling, right? Because Kasparis, he's only played 5 college basketball games now. Will Riley's still getting adjusted. Technically, he should still be a senior in high school playing up in Canada right now, right? Like a lot of these guys.
Alan Boswell, I think he should still be in high school.
Yeah, right. You know, a lot of these guys are just kind of still getting acclimated. And I know Czar called me out earlier to say there's a lot of coping in this episode. But again, for me, this loss against Alabama, I predicted 95-78. So technically we finished closer than I thought this game was going to be. I'm not satisfied with the loss. I definitely saw, if you had told me that Sears was going to have 0 points, I definitely would have been optimistic that we would have been able to pull it off. But I think I just saw enough of Kasparis today to make me think that between Kasparis, Avicic, and Will Riley, if those guys are playing at their peak powers once January rolls around, the Big Ten, from what I've seen, and I've watched as much Big Ten as I have, at least because of this show, essentially. I know I got to be keeping up with our opponents. There's no great team out there. And we're not a great team, and I'm not even hinting that we're a great team, but we have as good of a chance of being a great team once January rolls around as anybody.
Yeah, very true. Purdue is a different team at Mackey versus not at Mackey.
And that's the other thing. The Alabama got to play. First off, they missed everything, and then they went to Mackey. And Mackey, again, it's a cheat code when it comes to college basketball, which is why it's not apples to apples necessarily when you compare the two games. Jason says KJ struggled in the second half, and Boswell had his best night as an Illini. Telling you this reminds me of the makeup of Michigan State teams from years back. We will get hot towards the end of the year. Jason, that's what I keep saying. I think we might struggle in the out of conference, but I think once Big Ten season rolls around, we're going to be in good shape. He says, need to work on letting teams breaking us down and getting easy assists at the rim. If I'm Underwood, they would be shooting free throws until their arms fall off. We
say that every year. We say that every year. Every year. It's the same thing. Every year, it doesn't matter who the players are. It's an entirely new roster, and we still can't make free throws. I have to believe they are practicing free throws in practice. I don't think Brad's just ignoring it. I don't know why it's such an issue with this team, like basically every single year. We thought getting rid of Dane with Ty on the bench, we would be a better free throw shooting team, but apparently not.
All right. Kellen says, I think this game goes differently in March. That's what I said. I just think right now, especially early in the game, not even early in the game, like basically throughout the game, you saw a team that was just trying to figure things out, as opposed to the other side where they had a couple of their marquee players, being fifth-year college basketball players, a little bit more acclimated to the atmosphere. I think if this game was played even a month and a half from now, it'd be a 50-50 game. Kevin says, Big T is way too skilled offensively to come off the bench. I don't know what we do at the 4. Booth isn't ready for major minutes. It could have been Rogers maybe, but he bailed on us. Yeah, where'd Booth go?
He got a couple minutes early in the game, and it didn't look like he belonged on the floor. Morez was just playing much better. Booth, once the bench starts shortening, I mean, I'm sure he'll have, some games where he steps up, but he could be one of the odd men out, as the season goes along, especially if Ivisic is continuing to play this well, and Morez is continuing to improve. Booth needs to be much better defensively and rebounding if he's going to get minutes. Also, Ty, for the people that are saying that, like, oh, we really could have used Ty tonight, you people need to get your heads checked. Okay, this was a high-level scoring shootout, back and forth game. Ty would have not fit, and I love Ty. Ty's a dog, but he would not have fit anywhere on the court tonight. You don't have to guard Ty. Okay, they could have just sagged off of him, and everyone else would have struggled because of it. The best part of this team is that we have 5 guys on the court at all times who can score.
Ty is my guy. If he started today, after the first time out, he wouldn't have come back onto the court. Brad Underwood would have recognized that immediately. If we had done that, we'd be playing 4-on-5, basically. And again, Ty Rodgers has a role on a very good college basketball team in his future, but it's not Illinois. At least the way we've built our roster, it's not going to be for a Brad Underwood team in the near future. I completely agree with you, Chaps. I got to take one more break.
Like Florida
I got to
State
take one more break.
or
1
something.
second. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Ty belongs on like Florida State or one, some team like that where they're just kind of like running and jumping and there isn't much skill shooting.
All right. Matthew says more Riley and Morez. Ivisic can't guard at all, and Trey is bringing nothing. Ivisic can't guard, but he's just very, very good on the offensive end. Like he's, he brings so much on that end that he puts so much pressure. And the fact that he brings that much skill at that size puts so much pressure on the opposition to game plan for a guy like Tomislav that there's no way he's going anywhere in that lineup. He's going to be there for a very long time.
Yeah, Riley's fine, guys. Like, it's okay that he played 30 minutes almost in the game. Okay, it doesn't matter. I know, like, you can make the argument that we don't get off to such a bad start. I don't know if that really would have made much of a difference. Trey White did not have a good game. He needs to be much more focused defensively as well, because that's really why he's out there. Forced a couple bad shots. I'm not really concerned about it. And Morez is awesome, but he's picking up a foul every like 2 minutes of gameplay. So again, he'll be on the court more if he's not fouling.
Which again, a lot of freshman Big Ten guys do. Like that's just kind of you figured that would happen with Morez Johnson. Hopefully he gets over it. He's been a plus overall this season, and I'm really happy with what I've seen from him. But that's kind of what makes this whole Kerry Booth situation a little bit more disappointing. I was expecting him to be a guy who'd come in and provide 10 to 15 minutes between the 4 and 5, and it would just offer us a little bit more flexibility. Kenny says, if we made our free throws and stopped their sharp cuts to the hoop, it's a much closer game. Yeah, we kind of talked about that earlier. Matthew says, Ivisic doesn't just struggle on drop coverage. His closeouts on shooters are worse than horrible. Yeah, he's not good at defense. You're not going to hear me say anything like I'm not saying he is. I'm not making excuses for it. I'm just saying Brad Underwood understands he doesn't have a good defensive team. I don't think he's focused on that. I think he realized that last year that if you have a very, very good offensive team, it'll let you cope with having a bad defensive team. A couple more comments and we'll wrap things up here. Corey says, very encouraging game for Illini on road show. They definitely belonged against a national title contender. Boswell was very good on both ends tonight. Ivisic Johnson, excellent big man duo. Corey, thank you for bringing some positivity into the post game. That's where I stand right now. I'm not sad about this loss. I'm encouraged, if nothing else. Again, if this game, in my opinion, was played in January, it's a 50-50 game, and this is Alabama's team that could very well end up in the Final Four. All right, Jason says, if they only made free throws, something I've heard many. Well, yeah, yep. If you're an Illinois fan, making their free throws has always been an issue. Lee Thanks for stopping by. Lots of stuff to learn from this game, and they showed some fight and didn't roll over. I do worry, though, Brad will coach this team up, but you can't teach speed. You can't teach speed, and you can't teach top-end talent. This team, it may not be as good as last year's team, but the ceiling on this team, you can just see. You get glimpses of almost every single game. They can be really, really good. We'll just wrap it up there, chefs. Let the crowd know one more time where they can find your content.
Yeah, give us a follow. See our handle right there, Illini_JavaMen on the X. Find our podcast on Spotify, Fighting Illini or JavaMen Fighting Illini podcast. We'll start doing more and more shows. We were doing some football shows as well. Can't forget, football season is still going. Got both teams ranked in the top 25, so it's a great time to be an Illini. Consume all of our content and Sunny's content. Tons of great stuff out there. Thank you to Brad Underwood. Thank you to Brett Bielema. Thank you to Josh Whitman. We are grateful. It's a great time to be an Illini. Don't jump off the edge yet, Czar. Come back. As our friend Java Joe likes to say on our show, stop and look around once in a while. It's a great time to be an Illini.
Exactly. I mean, really, especially if you've been an Illini fan for the last 10, 20, some of my viewers for the last 40 years, those guys aren't the ones complaining right now. I'll tell you that much. Those guys understand that between men's basketball, women's basketball, and football, and even our other teams, our golf team, our baseball team, volleyball, everyone is performing right now. There hasn't been a better time to be an Illini fan. And I just want to thank Shaft for coming on. Thank you all for listening and watching. Please, on your way out, hit that like button, subscribe button. Again, help me on my goal to hit 2,000 subscribers by January 1st. You'll find me back here on Thursday night. We'll have the Big Ten Squad show. I won't be a part of that one, but you'll see me Friday morning, basically preparing for that Rutgers game with Aaron Brightman from the Scarlet Faithful, the best Rutgers coverage that you're going to find. Saturday, of course, I'll be here for the postgame immediately after Illinois Rutgers. Again, hit that notification button that way over there, and I'll see you guys later. I'll love you guys.
I.